Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Town Hall meeting for the Spring 21 Orchestra Hybrid Plan. I'll go through a couple announcements first and then go through the hybrid plan. This is, of course, is recorded, so it'll be archived on the website. First, there was a really generous invitation from one of our fall semester speaker, Afa Estworken. And in fact, starting tomorrow is the Sphinx Connect conference, which is happening, actually, it was supposed to be happening in Detroit in person, but of course, due to the pandemic, it got moved into our virtual space. But many of the speakers that we met will be at the conference, as well as other speakers from the field of orchestral music and classical music, addressing this very issue of inequity and racism in classical music that we have been dealing with all fall semester. So let me just share the screen just briefly, because we have all of us have been given invitation to be part of this schedule. So the opening plenary, which starts January 28th, includes president of the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. So many of you who are thinking about going into field of nonprofit and academia, Andrew Mellon Foundation plays a huge role. And so that's the first session. So all of the sessions will be happening January 28th, Thursday to Saturday. But I'm just gonna just click through the order of events and just give you a preview of things that are happening. So these are all, and I will send links to everybody. But most importantly, if you'd like to sort of take part on any of these sessions, normally you would have to pay, I think, like $300 or $160 for students, a conference fee. But Afa Estworken right here has offered a free registration fee for all the Cornell Orchestra members. So I would really encourage you to check it out, even if you're just going to check out one of the sessions. But there will be so many things and so many amazing people from the field of actually not just classical music, but all over. So, I mean, these are really central people who are playing a key role in how we shape our field. So I think this is sort of an amazing opportunity to be able to take part in all of these sessions. I mean, Deborah Boda, President and CEO of New York Philharmonic, and all of these amazing people who are doing things to change things for the better, to bring about more equity. Garrett McQueen, who's one of our guests in the upcoming weeks, will be talking as well on a panel. Edward Yim, who Sage will be working together to for his presentation and engagement with us. They'll all be here. Titus Underwood. So we kind of have the all-star team coming to us, but it's a great chance to meet them in advance of their appearance with us. Yuval Sharon is an amazing person who works with the Michigan Opera Theater, but he's also a renowned stage director. So and then it ends with a Sphinx competition junior and senior division finals. So if you'd like to take part, this is an amazing opportunity to take part on a set of events that you normally would have to pay for. Just let me know by today sometime, and then I'll send you the registration links and let Afa that these sets of students would like to take part for free. And we're not really expecting you to take part of the whole weekend, although you can certainly do that. But you can just check out one or two sessions that you want to pick out from the schedule, and it's all happening. I think 6:30 to 10 Eastern Standard. So do let me know if you'd like to be part of that. Okay, that was sort of a announcement. Now I'm going to go straight into the presentation of the hybrid mode. So I've been working through the late fall and all through December and January, trying to get answers with facilities. So the plan that I'm about to share with you is not yet completely approved. So there is still a question mark as to where we will be holding our rehearsals, if we're holding in rehearsals in person. So all of this has been proposed to facilities and the administration and to the college. But of course, and I'm trying to put myself in their shoes and the reason for the delay in making the decisions. And it's understandable because the pandemic is getting worse. The vaccine rollout has not happened in a way that it should have. So if you're in the shoes of an administrator, it's a very difficult time to make decisions about whether the orchestra could be in person from late March to May. But I've given them a deadline of February 2 because it's not possible for me to plan for all contingencies. So February 2 is the date in which I'll have to decide whether we're going to be in hybrid mode or not. So we're in a similar time block as we were in the summer, where I was asking for decisions, asking for guidance, asking for a way forward. But I'm more hopeful this time around because I've also given them a number of studies by institutions and colleges and universities, other orchestras who have held rehearsals in person with social distancing, and they were successful in not having infections or cluster infections. So I've given them many examples of other orchestras around the country who have done a successful fall semester in a hybrid mode or in-person mode. I'm hopeful that this time around we'll be given guidance. So for example, in B20, the guidance changed from 22 to 40. So the number of people that could be in B20 was increased to 40, but that does not include singers or wind players. So then there was a new guidance for B20, which allows up to 8 people or 8 wind and brass players. So I thought, oh, great. So 8 of the 40 can be wind players. And they say, no, 8 total if it's a wind player. So let me go to the document because I laid out our plan in the document. So let's go to the document. And by the way, I have sent this link to everybody, so you have this, although I have been making changes and adjustments as I get more information. I skipped the gun a little bit, but let me go into this description of the hybrid model that I have proposed to the facilities and administration. It's pending approval. So we'll be offering CSO and CCO. There'll be 3 phases. So in phase 1, which begins February 8 to March 4, both orchestras will meet on Wednesday afternoons. And we will continue our series of addressing inequity and racism in classical music and orchestra with 4 guests who are confirmed. So on these 4 Wednesdays, February 10, we'll have Titus Underwood, who is the principal of the Nashville Symphony. February 17 is Garrett McQueen, who is a activist. He's a former professional bassoonist, but he was also a Minnesota public radio personality who was actually fired for programming too many BIPOC composers. So he'll be here talking about his experience and going through this time. February 24 is Angelica Cortez, who used to be the manager of the Yola Youth Orchestra of LA in Los Angeles. She's starting her new role as a equity person at the Juilliard School in New York City. And then March 3rd will be Edward Yim, who is probably one of the highest ranking Asian American arts leaders in our country. He worked with the LA Phil, New York Philharmonic as an artistic personnel. And now he's the president of the WQXR classical radio in New York. And he is a very well-respected arts administrator. And he'll talk about his experience. All right, so both orchestras will meet on Wednesday during the 4:55, 6:25 Eastern Standard Time slot to engage with our 4 speakers. So that's phase 1. Phase 2 begins March 8 and goes to March 25. And then we'll have about 3 weeks of online score analysis and sectionals. So we'll be using these chances to have both score study with me, with these 5 guests, I've started the conversation And so they haven't been confirmed yet because I'm still trying to see how we may, because what day we meet is still under question, whether the Wednesday time slot is the time slot. So, but we're hoping to do a score session with Mahler, with Kenneth Woods, also some sectionals in the second hour, score study with Vivaldi, Elissa Citerio, who is the artistic director of the Baroque Music Ensemble in Toronto. And she's an early music specialist, so she'll have lots of insights to offer on the Vivaldi. And then score study on Florence Price and Joseph Ballone with Erjun Kang, who's a violin professor who have premiered a violin concerto by Florence Price. And these two, Carl Sinclair and Larry Ratcliffe, I'm still trying to nail down their schedule because they're very busy with their schedule. So I'm hoping to do Bernstein with Carl Sinclair, he was Bernstein's assistant. And then we also have a invitation to a performance of Florence Price's piano concerto with the Philadelphia Orchestra, which was just recently recorded. Michelle McCann, who came and spoke at Cornell and at the sessions with the choirs. So we have an invitation to the premiere of that video performance on Wednesday, March 24. And then March 26, Larry Ratcliffe, hopefully, will be joining us to do a score study session on Copland. So phase 2 will have both score study and online sectionals. Most of the sectionals will be happening either one-on-one coaching or a small section sectional over Zoom or some kind of video format. Okay. All right. Now here's phase 3. I'm not gonna read all of this information, but you should read all of the decisions that led up to this format in terms of the number of people that are allowed initially in B20. So when I drew up this plan, Bailey Hall wasn't really in the mix yet, and the Bailey Hall guidance was just it's something that came out quite recently. So if we're indeed going to be in Bailey Hall, then the numbers may change significantly upwards, because in B20, the guidance for us for 40 people were all masked and socially distanced by a 6-foot radius. But that did not include wind players. So it would have been just strings, percussion, and keyboard. They did give us a new guidance of 8 wind players with a 12-foot radius, but that precluded anybody else from being in B20. So I sort of did a counter proposal where we would have up to 19 to 22 players and up to 3, maybe 4 wind players. So I started to look for repertoire that we could do in B20 with such a repertoire. So let me just skip over. So this would be the repertoire for both orchestra. So chamber orchestra would be assigned to the play the following. So if you're, after the audition, if you're assigned to one of these 3 pieces, you register for 4621. And then we would have a maximum number of 23 members. That'll be 1 flute doubling on piccolo, 1 oboe who can double on English horn, 1 clarinet doubling on bass clarinet, 1 bassoon, 1 percussion, 1 keyboard to play the harmonium part or electric keyboard, and 2 pianists. And then 8 violins, 3 violas, 3 cellos, and 1 bass for a total of 23 members. So here, when I say strings 4, 4, 3, 3, 1, that's a shorthand nomenclature for 4 first violin, 4 second violin, 3 violas, 3 cellos, 1. So when I say 4, 4, 3, 3, 1, that's what the strings are. So in the Mahler, we would have 22 players, and the Orenstein arrangement of his 4th symphony would be these instrumentalists for a total of 22 players. And then Copland's Appalachian Spring would be 4, 4, 3, 3, 1, of total of 19 players. So that would be the repertoire and the number of people playing these pieces in chamber orchestra. And then the repertoire for 3621 or CSO. So by the way, CCO would rehearse Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. And then CSO would rehearse right now, probably Monday or Friday, if Bailey Hall is approved. So there'll be these sets of players. and that'll allow for this repertoire. So we would have a Vivaldi guitar concerto with a string count of 4/4-3-3-1 plus guitar, an overture from Joseph Bologne's opera The Anonymous Lover would have the instrumentation of 2 oboes, 2 horns, and string count of 4/4-3-3-1 for a total of 19 players. And then Bernstein's Halil for solo flute. But actually, this piece has 3 flute parts. It has a solo flute part, a piccolo part, and an alto flute part. So it would involve 3 flute players, 5 percussionists, harp, and string orchestra. So for a total of 22 players. So that is the repertoire for now, and that's what we're planning for. And that allows for contingencies if we're in either B20 or of Lincoln Hall or Bailey Hall. Now, if Bailey Hall is approved for, let me address one more thing. Because our proposal includes wind and brass players, the guidance is that when you have a wind and brass player in a room with a group of people, you have to empty out the room for half an hour, after half an hour. So a typical rehearsal in B20 and B21 would look something like this, where we would begin setup at 4:15 to 4:40, and then 4:45 to 5:15, we would have a 30-minute allowance of rehearsal with the wind player. Then we have to get out of that room, empty it out. So if we're in Lincoln Hall, we would go over to B21 and have a short sectional with 1 instrumental section, not including the wind player. So maybe a cello sectional or second violin sectional or something like this. While the rest of the orchestra, that would be your coffee break. You would go get coffee and then come back. And then we would come back to B20 and have another half-hour rehearsal from 5:55 to 6:25. And then, so basically each 2-hour block allows for a 2 30-minute rehearsal with a 30-minute sectional in a different location. So it's not a lot of time that we have. It's not like a 2-hour straight rehearsal. And then, so this would be what it would look like in terms of the schedule of events in B20. This should actually say Monday and Friday. Wednesday is not available. Okay, so these would be the just map of the performances. We would have our Festival of Solo Works, which many of you have participated and are working on things. And then we would have the Cornell Symphony Orchestra concert with this repertoire on May 2. And the location is still unknown. Hopefully Bailey Hall, but maybe it might be the Arts Club where we are performing. And chamber orchestra repertoire would be the Mahler, Copland, and Price. So both orchestra would be working on the adoration arrangement that I've made. Okay, so, and then I've also mapped out phase 1, 2, 3, just in a, by each date, what's happening. So as you can see, this is phase 1, then it's phase 2, and then phase 3. So I've kind of mapped out the rehearsal schedule with what piece we might be rehearsing in that particular rehearsal. So for example, let's say CSO, we would spend probably maybe the Bernstein in 1/2 hour, and then maybe the Vivaldi would be in B20 when there's a sectional, and then Bologna is a 5-minute, Price is a 5-minute string orchestra piece, and then Bologna is a 3-movement, about 12-minute piece. So that would take up another 1/2 hour slot. The Mahler and the Copland will probably split up the 2 1/2 hours in that way. I made sure that we have put in the wellness no classes days. So there's an interruption of these days. So that means CSO, which would rehearse the last time would be Monday before the breakaway, Monday 4/19, and then the next time is, this is kind of scary, April 30. So so that's a little bit scary, right? To go because we don't have a Wednesday slot, and then the wellness day break includes Monday and Friday. So there's a little bit of a hiccup there. All right, so I'm going to come back to out of the document. So look at the document and look at each of the phases. But couple timelines. On February 2, I will get guidance as to whether we have Bailey Hall or not. Right now, the update, the latest information that I've had from them is that Wednesday is booked solid till 10 because it is one of the largest spaces, and many of the classes are opting for having a socially distanced classes in Bailey Hall. So right now, 4 to 7, I think what I've been told is that it may be possible for the orchestra to have that space Monday and Fridays, 4 to 7 for CSO, and then Tuesday and Thursday for CCO. But that's schedule-wise, it's available. But in terms of facilities approving this plan, initially, I want to increase the number of players in the orchestra that will play in Bailey Hall, because I said, well, if it's Bailey Hall, the square footage is larger. Can we have more people? But I think that probably would not have been approved. So I stuck with the same number as in the number of players proposed for B20. And so hopefully that number of players, up to 22 players, will be approved rehearsing on stage, and maybe a little bit using this auditorium seats. Although Bill Esty, the Bailey Hall manager, was adamant that because they're trying to have the amount of cleaning, so as you can imagine, when students have classes in Bailey Hall, they are assigned to specific seats in the auditorium. So between classes, those seats used in that class is cleaned. So what they don't want is to have that locations be different, so that the cleaning stations, clean seats are changed. So I may be able to have some players occupy those seats, but it's not like we have the auditorium to use at will, because the cleaning maintenance routine, if we do that, that throws the havoc into the system they have in place, or at least that's what I've been being told. Okay, so I've talked a whole bunch, and I know there's a lot of questions, and I haven't paid attention to the chat. So why don't I answer a couple of questions from the chat? Here, let me go to full screen so I can look at the chat and the raised hand feature. Okay. So somebody's taking notes, and this will be all sent to the listserv. But do you have questions, specific questions? Go ahead. This is your chance.
Yeah. So
Alex,
how many practices in person are we actually going to get before we do any sort of performing?
So in phase 3, I have in the document, there's a pretty detailed schedule of events, right? So you can calculate the number of rehearsals we'll have before a performance. So for CSO, let me go back to the screen. So I've labeled each of the rehearsals. So of course I've labeled all the pieces, but each of the rehearsal, even though it's 4:45 to 6:45, remember that schedule of that rotation where we have to rehearse for half hour, then empty out the room, and then maybe do a sectional somewhere in a different location, and then come back and do another half-hour rehearsal. So that'll be the case also for Bailey Hall, if we're in Bailey Hall. So that is not a 2-hour slot. That's actually 2 half-hour slots and maybe a sectional. It depends on whether I can get a different location for a sectional and at that time. If not, we just have to leave Bailey Hall for half an hour and then come back. So for the CSO repertoire, including the Bernstein, Vivaldi, and Bellone and Price, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rehearsals, 9 days of rehearsal that have 2-hour slot, two half-hour slots. Then we have our dress rehearsal schedule, but in the dress rehearsal, it'll be the same. We'll have to follow the same protocol, and then we'll perform. And then for CCO, we have a little bit longer time because the Mahler and the Copland is quite a bit more difficult. So that has 12 rehearsals, dress, and a performance.
Okay. I had another question. Sorry, give me a moment. Right, when are we gonna get our sheet music for the pieces?
So I have all of the music basically ready to be shipped to us once we have approval, because many of the pieces are rental, so they're quite expensive to rent. So I don't want to rent them and then have the plan be not approved. But my hope is that we will have the music ready sometime in mid-February.
Okay. And then for the Vivaldi piece, I've already started working on that. Do you want me to have the entire thing ready by February, or?
Well, we won't be rehearsing in person till end of March. So that,
Oh,
yeah.
do we need to have all our music learned by then, or?
Yeah, so the idea is that everybody's working. Now, this won't work if everybody's not working on their individual parts until we meet in person. The idea is that you will be spending individual practice time during the first half of the semester. And we'll be calling sectionals, we'll be calling individual coaching sessions to help you get ready for our in-person mode, because even though it looks like a regular sort of concert block period of 9 to 12 rehearsal to get ready for a concert, it's actually much more condensed amount of time, because each day of rehearsal, we don't have 2 hours, we have 2 half-hour slots. So it's if we all show up not really having looked at the music, it's not going to work. So and it's not going to work if you haven't practiced for 6 months and you don't practice. You got to start getting back into shape so that you start working your scales and arpeggios, and you are putting in the minutes and hours that are needed to get ready to play in person.
Thanks.
I had a quick question. So because CSO is now meeting on Monday and Friday, I can no longer, that time doesn't work for me. So do I have to update the audition form then?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So one of the things that we initially proposed was a weekend date. So we had proposed something like Wednesday and Sunday, or Tuesday and Saturday. But there were a lot of feedback from students where that would actually be even more difficult. So I pulled back from including weekend dates. All right, there's a question in the chat. Okay, Tim, do you want to ask that question? Because I think somebody else might have the same question.
Yeah, so basically for just those of us that are going to be at home this semester, what's the plans for that? For I'm interested in the National Oboist Talk, obviously, and WQXR, because just in terms of the content, and then also the score study too. So just like, what do you have in mind for us that are studying from home, I guess?
That's a great question. Current technology that we have, it is really not possible for somebody who's remote to join the orchestra that's in person remotely and have a musical experience successfully because of latency issue. The jazz band and the band are doing this system using the Dante system. So what they're doing is they're connecting a large rehearsal space in B20, and they're going to hook up a Dante system to as many as 12 classrooms. And each of the 12 classrooms will have a wind player who are by themselves. And then all of them are hooking on to this Dante system, which allows them to play with limited latency because they're all using the intranet system. So, but that's only working because you are basically on campus. And so the delay is such that imagine if you're in Bailey Hall and somebody's on stage and then somebody's at the back of the auditorium right by the doors, and they're trying to play together, and that's the amount of delay. So there's still delay, but it's I think the maximum delay is 20 microseconds because after that it becomes impossible to play together. So they're working together in that system, and that's the plan for the jazz band and the band to have as many as I think 13 connections. So I made inquiries about this, about possibly doing the same thing. And the feedback that I've received is that, you know what, I think that's going to be the same as if I'm in my own room playing by myself, playing to a recording. And I'm really not interested in doing that. I'd rather be in person. So I've tried to have an option where we are trying to have an in-person experience as much as possible, but that precludes somebody who's not on campus to take part in the in-person mode of the orchestra. So I've still tried to offer 7 weeks of content in terms of 4 speakers and 3 weeks of score study and analysis. So you are welcome to register for either course and study the repertoire and meet our speakers and go along on this journey. It's just that you won't be able to take part in the in-person mode. And I won't, of course, I'm happy to have you on board for whatever part you can take part. Okay.
Okay, so it's still open. The other half of the course is still open to us to participate in, though.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks.
Follow-up question to that. For
Yeah.
students who are only participating in the first half of the course, should they still register for the credit or should they register for 0 credit?
That's a good question. I think I'm willing to have you register for full credit and give you credit for being part of the orchestra because it's such an unusual time.
Thanks.
Hi, I have a question about timing.
Yeah.
So there, like when I'm looking at the document, there's 2 parts that say phase 2, and one
Oh.
of them has times like at like 1:30 on Friday, and then switching.
Oh,
to-
the 1:30 is when we had the weekend time. So the 1:30 is incorrect. I'll go in and fix those. All of the times will be 4:45 to 6:45 on Monday through Friday, not including Wednesday. So again, for CSO, it'll be Monday, Friday, 4:45 to 6:45. For CCO will be Tuesday, Thursday. And there's no weekend time. When we had the weekend time, there was we opted for a 1:30 to 3:30 time slot, but I took that out. So that's a typo that still remained there. I'll go in and fix that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So all of this will be updated one way or the other on February 2, because that's when I'm supposed to have guidance from facilities and the university. So that's what they have told me. That is the date that they'll make the decision to approve the plan to be in Bailey Hall or Lincoln Hall, or in terms of the in-person mode, and whether we can have up to 22 people mixed in with wind players. So that's I'm giving you as best as I can the updates that I have with the plan. Okay. All right. I will stay on as long as anybody has questions. But hope you're staying healthy and safe, and hope you had some time to take a break from all the Zooms and get ready for the new semester. I really hope that we can be in person together. Okay.